Well, Christmas lights are set up and it's the holiday spirit at Honolulu Hale, but the work continues for Honolulu's mayor.
And to talk about the work that was in 2025 and what's next for 2026, we have the mayor here live for the full hour. Spotlight Now starts now.
You're watching Spotlight Now with Ryan Kalei-Suchi and Yunji Denise on Hawaii News Now. Have questions or comments for our guests? Join the conversation in our Facebook live stream. Spotlight Now, where Hawaii comes to talk.
Well, hello, and thanks for tuning in here to Spotlight Now on Hawaii News Now. We're going to get to our guest, Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi, in just a few moments. But before we invite the mayor in, we want to invite all of you who are watching both on air and online to engage in the conversation. You can ask your questions directly to the mayor by heading over to Facebook. You can add your questions and comments in there, or you can email us here at spotlightnow@hawaiinewsnow.com.
And we always love to hear what you have to ask, so please do engage with us. And we want to welcome in the mayor of the city and county of Honolulu, Mr. Rick Blangiardi. Thanks for being here.
Glad to be here, Yanji, always with both of you folks. Yeah.
It's good to see you. We have so many topics to talk about. We want to popcorn around, but before we sort of dive in, it's sort of a reflective time of year. How are you feeling about 2025?
I feel really good about 2025. Look, on the outside, the world is challenging. We know that, and there's been a lot of concerns that are going to be ongoing, if you will. So I'm not blind to that, but I stay focused on the progress we're making as a team. And as I said at the outset last year, the second term, which we're now just rounding out the first year, we were shifting from a planning mode to really execution. And a lot of things have begun to manifest, some of which we'll talk about today. But I know this team now. I know its capability. I know the plans we put forth. I can see the path ahead on a lot of things that, really maybe the general public doesn't know. But this is the result of a lot of hard work on the part of a lot of people in all the best interests of the city. So I'll be happy to talk about any and all of that.
Okay. I want to ask
you.
Is
Ryan in a good mood today?
I'm
looking over here. You're always smiling, but Ryan's over there like,
it's a little good cop, bad cop.
Yeah. Are you in the Christmas spirit? You opened up talking about the lights here, man. Come on.
Of course.
I actually want to start with immigration.
Sure.
The City Council approved just recently a resolution effectively affirming constitutional rights for all Honolulu residents that includes immigrants regardless of status. What's your thought on that resolution and on what we're seeing with the ICE enforcement in general?
Yeah, so I'll give you kind of on both sides of it, if you will. First of all, we supported that. And because I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but, even all people have due process rights. And I think that's what that spoke to, But if you're asking me if we want to be a sanctuary city, I'd say absolutely not. And so therein lies a bit of the rub. In fact, we got listed incorrectly as in the sanctuary city, and we got ourselves delisted pretty quickly. We're going to do everything that's fair. Look, and I'm not interested in having any crime element here, but we haven't really had that as we're seeing elsewhere on the mainland. We don't have the cartel issues or whatever, to my knowledge, okay? It could be something going on people who came in here I know nothing about, as in the Kauai raid. I was surprised by that. I got a call, they were going to pick up 42 people. But I also know a lot of people have moved here, have lived here in the neighbor islands. I think the governor said he estimated there was some 48,000 illegal immigrants in the state of Hawaii. There's been a lot of people here just working, trying to make a living. We're not interested in harassing those people, even hurting those people, and that's why I think we sided with the city council on due process and giving everybody what they're entitled to.
I'm just wondering, when this issue comes up, we have seen what is happening nationally in some of the larger cities, and as a mayor of this municipality and your connection with other mayors, do these conversations come up? I mean, how do you engage with other mayors in some of these cities, and maybe what have you heard from?
Well, really, I haven't been, to be honest with you, Ryan. I mean, I'm at a stage of my life right now with all things in front of us here locally. Other than what I did with the Bloomberg Harvard City Leadership Initiative, that cohort that we were pretty close for 18 months, having 2 Zoom calls a month and whatever. And other than that interaction, I've gone to like 2 U.S. Conference of Mayors events. I really am focused here. And I made that determination. I'm not building a political career. I got nothing against anybody else, but there are so many things to take on here that I chose to make that decision, and I think it's a good one.
How do you navigate, law enforcement? Do you think that HPD should be assisting ICE in these enforcement efforts? Like, how do you figure out if we're not a sanctuary city? Does that mean we're in in alignment with the federal policy, or do you resist it in any way? That
Well,
seems
we
like
haven't resisted it. We said we didn't want to federalize our police department. Quite honestly, that situation hasn't come up yet. And we'll have to see how we work through that on the pros and the cons. I mean, look, I've said it all along about public safety, and I don't want to be duplicitous in that. I want to make sure we're doing what we need to do to protect the people in this community. But those conversations haven't taken place yet.
Let's continue on the conversation about
Sure.
HPD and what's happening there with Interim Chief Vanek now
Yep.
in that role. Your assessment overall of what he's doing in this role, in this interim role. We had him on this program. He said this time around he wants the job.
Yeah.
What is your assessment of the job he's doing, and would you support him in the long run in this role?
I think that Chief Vanek, this time around as the interim, has been acting very differently than the first year, because then he just was sort of filling a place. So it's been really nice for me to be able to work with with Chief Vanek. It's been kind of a coaching job, to be honest with you. No, I think the chief is really, going all out. He comes to my weekly homeless meetings, which I greatly appreciate. He's really active. In fact, I was on a call with him this morning and Mike Lambert on getting ready for what we're going to do with respect to New Year's Eve. And the collaboration between HPD and the state, I think, is unprecedented with the sheriff's office. And then there's just a lot of other things that we've been involved in as well. And so, and I know he stepped up on on our recruiting efforts, and he's been really accessible. So I've been very, very pleased working with Chief Vanek. I'm going to withhold my endorsement right now because, that's the process we're going to go through. I think after the first of the year, they'll be announcing the consultant firm that they hired and all that's going to take place. But in the meantime, and I'm not being disingenuous, Chief Vanek knows my door is always open to him. My phone lines are always open to him. We continue to work in a highly collaborative way, solving problems and making things better. And I'm enjoying this much better than just having somebody in the role waiting for the next chief to take place. It's interesting to work with somebody who's interim who really wants the job, and I can see it and feel it. And that's been good for the department. It's been good for me, and I think it's been good for Chief Vanek as well.
One of the things that's interesting is that when he was the interim the first time around, he was very full throttle on the body cams. And now he told us about a pilot program that HPD is exploring where you take that body camera footage using AI to create an initial police report. What are your thoughts about integrating AI into that? Do you have any reservations about using that kind of a system? Do you think it's a good efficiency? What are your thoughts?
I don't know the details on that particular thing, but we've been very open-minded and very aggressive in the use of AI. I think, this is one of those things where we're looking very much forward to modernizing the city to the best of our ability. We've already been using it extensively in DPP and eliminating the backlog, but in other sectors, if you talk to our IT director, Brian McGee, he would tell you that. And so, look, I think that in today's day and age, especially in police work, to be as modern as we possibly can, to be as efficient as we possibly can. I've seen good examples of AI I know you have the people coming on from HPH, what they're doing with AI there. I mean, it's really going to eliminate burnout with doctors. And I think anytime we can use technology, and I came out of a technology-driven business, and embrace that technology as opposed to look the other way, worse yet, act like it doesn't even exist, not investing in it, is a real mistake from a leadership standpoint. We spent a lot of time, even though it was never talked about when I was campaigning, nobody talked about modernizing the city. And then I came into it from a technology-driven business thinking, wow, there we were buying, the first iPhones for investigators for DPP. I mean, they were using flip phones. It was a couple of years ago. I mean, and I can go on and on with all the things that we've invested in. So I'm all for, let's say, we're about to enter the 7th year of the 3rd decade of the 21st century. Okay, we need to be in that time zone. And anything we can possibly do, I'm all for it.
Let's talk a little bit about DPP. You brought it up a few times of how some of the issues that are existing and some of the progress that you've made. There are people who are saying it's still taking too long, that there have been some issues with some of the rollout on some of the new initiatives. What is the status right now overall and where you think things are at?
All right. Well, let me just harken back to here, okay? In 2009, when everybody told us you can't do that, when we put this whole thing together at Hawaii News Now, and all the naysayers that went on and all the things we had to labor through in our first year or two of operation. We were nowhere as technically savvy then, even though we were jumping on mobile technology operationally like the station is today. We took on was a big undertaking. But I can tell you this, because I think the question you guys had said to me about the developers, I want to point out a couple of things. First of all, if I were to put it on a matrix, I'd say we're probably 80% there technically and maybe 50% there with our workforce culturally, which is understood because we took a big leap into the future here. And I like the progress. I stand by what I said at my State of the City last year. Our goal is that you'll be able to get permits here as fast as anywhere in the country, and we're on target to be able to do that, and we're going to deliver on that. As far as developers, and since you brought that up, I am in regular contact now with the developers, whether you're talking about High Ridge Costa, Kobayashi, Stanford Carr, Tradewinds, Howard Hughes, all the time, because we're really engaged in housing. Kevin Auger, our Director of Housing and Land Management, along with Kat Tashner, we're having a lot of different discussions with even some other developers, and I'm not hearing anything about DPP from them. We're making good progress and headway in that regard. In fact, the AIA, the American Institute of Architects, came out and did a big story applauding the progress DPP's made. Are we there yet? No. Is it challenging? Absolutely. This is really hard work and gut-wrenching, and I can't say enough about Don Takeuchi Apuna, our director. But we've come a long way. In fact, we just closed for a little bit last week in order to eliminate the last backlog. There's just so much, But look, we've invested in people, we've invested in technology, we've invested in pay grades, so we're paying competitively so we can hire the right people. We're hiring mechanical and electrical engineers. We had such a deficit there before. This is just a big undertaking. And everybody told me, it couldn't be done, to be honest with you. And that's only one of the holy grails. We have multiple holy grails in this job, and not the least of which was rail, but there's other things too. We're working on procurement right now, and for the fact that we're trying to make up for an incredible lack of investment. I understand municipalities everywhere suffer this. It's not just Honolulu. I'm not casting aspersions on anybody before me. But I think you can ill afford, since you just asked me about AI, to look at where we are at this moment in time and trying to service the city and what people expect to be able to interact with when it comes to government, where they interact with technology and so many other endeavors. We want to be there. And look, we did the thing last week on the 311 call. That was a good concept that was in place, but the city was paying an outside vendor, and all it was doing was creating confusion and backlogs. We couldn't get the stuff. Now, today, it was built from the ground up with our own team internally. It's much more interactive. It's going to be able to focus and pinpoint problems. That's part of what we want to do. And I think people expect to be able to do that. So yeah, there's so much to be done on all of this stuff. But I find it really incredibly exciting and rewarding, because every time we have a breakthrough, we start doing stuff and everybody goes, wow. It's very gratifying that way.
Yeah, one of those holy grails, if you will, is the rail itself, and so you brought that up.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about it. Segment 2 is open.
Yep.
$41 million for rail easements to get to the Ala Moana extension.
Yeah.
Tell us why that's a good investment.
Okay, well, first of all, that was a long-standing lawsuit with Hughes, right? And that was always when after they signed the full funding grant agreement, when they amended. And they were going to go, originally it was going to go East Kapolei to UH, right? And then it got amended, and that's when it got truncated down to Ala Moana. And then that meant Kaka'ako and all that development, right? And so they had plans to do that. This predates us. I think it goes back to 2018. I don't typically talk about losses, but I think all this stuff is public information. I think Hughes wanted over $200 million. The $41 million agreement ended up being good and worthwhile. Look, ultimately, Skyline will go to Ala Moana Center. It just will, ultimately. And when that next phase begins, if you will, because we're already invested another almost $53 million or two to Perini on the design build, we're anticipating that. There's one thing I want to say about rail that a lot of people don't understand about the rail project. Somewhere in there, all of this got lost, because there's been so much focus on money. But the way it's set up is that when we get, let's say, to Haleakala and South Street, in 2030, maybe 2031. I'm hoping 2030, which will be after I leave office. But the rail will be paid for, so we don't have bonds extending into the future, and so that really is a great format. When I hear about people say we don't have the money to go to Alma, no, that's going to take a whole different recalculation on now the next segment. But other than the operating expenses of it, this thing we didn't float bonds into the future. That's very powerful when you start talking about financing further development on rail. So I'm excited about the future of it. Look, I really believe we've changed the narrative. I went from, everybody telling me, tear it down or whatever else when I was campaigning, to this whole thing when we went through the first segment, then people were sort of disengaged because the Aloha Tower wasn't really, Aloha Stadium rather, really wasn't the place to go. Now this second segment and what we're hearing, we're now averaging over 11,000 a day. I said we're going to get to 25,000. We've been operating for like 7 weeks really since October. We're going to get there. The feedback constantly, we're there. People are riding it. We're getting really good feedback. We just got to change. We got to change 2 decades of cynicism, and we got to change behaviors. And I would tell you, lately I've been out on the west side and a lot of traffic coming back. I keep thinking to myself, why do you want to do this if you have an alternative? I'm not saying everybody there has an alternative based on their destinations, but this is really going to take hold. And I've said it before. The truth of the matter is, this is a transformative project. And so in the here and now, yes, we're building it, and you're both very young, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way. And so maybe in some day, some way, it's sort of for you, so to speak. But a lot of this is towards the future. And I look at all the real estate projects that are coming to play now. I think we've got some 14 TOD projects, serious projects, significant housing, even affordable, all kinds of creative things are all coming into play now as a result of that. So we're going to get the ridership. It will build, and I'm confident in that. And we're going to also be talking. At some point, we've already had private discussions with the FTA, but we'll be talking about additional legs for the rail and where that's going to go and what that's going to look like. And I said all along, it needs to go to Ala Moana at a minimum, ultimately, deeper into Kapolei, absolutely. You want to build rail systems, transit systems where people go, and there's a lot of people out there. And just last week, I was on a panel and I spoke at the Kapolei Christmas Chamber of Commerce luncheon, and Tracy Tanaki was saying that, Ho'opili, the park and ride was always empty. Now it's at least half full every day. It takes a while. It takes time to change people's behaviors.
One of the major players, of course, in the rail has been the federal partners and the dollars that are coming from D.C. with everything that's happened in this last year, with cuts that have been happening into, not necessarily into this project, but just overall what we've been seeing coming through the Trump administration. Any thoughts about, as we talk about expansion and knowing that we may have to rely on federal dollars, just the relationship that has to exist with the congressional delegation and the approach to get federal support?
Well, our relationship with the FTA is very, very good, first of all. Okay, I mean, when I came into the project, had the outgoing Jane Williams FTA administrator, and then I met very shortly after that the incoming under President Biden, Noria Fernandez, both telling me the project was the worst in the country, and that's the reason why the FTA had not given the city any money since 2017. What we have done, and I've talked to them just recently over the last 5 years, and the fact that we're 83% operational, and the fact that they even agreed to allow us to truncate the line from Ala Moana, that 1.25 miles, without any financial penalty, or for that matter, waiving the EIS, which would have taken years. The cooperation and what we've been able to establish with them, and the fact that we're fully operational now, and what we're doing through the first 2 segments, they're very, very pleased. As far as the rest of the dollars, as best I know, we're pretty good on that, on the additional, and we just got another 250 when we opened up the last segment. So I feel really good about things. The rest of the Washington narrative, I really can't address. I don't know. I think everybody watches every day and wonders about what they're going to hear next, I do believe, though, that they are pro-transit, and that if we're doing something smart out here that makes sense, and we've got the success of what we've already achieved, that gives us a great calling card.
We've got a question coming in from Raquel, who says, Aloha Mayor, any updates for the first responder hub on the North Shore?
Yeah, I do. I actually, here's the deal. We've come to terms. I'm excited about that. We just haven't signed the paperwork yet. I think I'll have the purchase sale agreement done this week. So we're moving forward, and I'm moving forward with great confidence. We're really excited about the fact we were able to do this. And then we'll be talking about what we're going to do out there. But I think we want to do something that's world-class to match our world-class men and women in ocean safety, and not the least of which is the beaches. I mean, the beaches are so phenomenal. We need to have that out there. And I think it'll also help us, and we'll have an ambulance out there as well, on just being able to provide the kind of resource that really should be out there. I mean, we ought to have something out there in that hub that looks like a movie lot, a movie set, as opposed to the guys working out of a condemned house in the back of their cars. And these are incredible lifeguards who put their lives on the line every single day in waters out there that are really beautiful to look at, treacherous to swim in. And we want to make it right. And I feel so good about what we've done with ocean safety, separating it from EMS and the priority we've given it, and what that affords us. We're about to open up over in Kailua and Lanikai. That's the first facility, standalone facility, that's been built for our lifeguards in 107 years. Yeah, I'm proud of that because we're showing them some respect, but it's also, when you think about it, both for our residents and tourists, it's the right stuff to do. It's just the right thing to do, and it feels good.
Before we go to break, I want to ask you about ocean safety. There's an opening for the chief. You've thrown your weight behind one candidate, your endorsement. What do you think that job? What are you hoping for in that chief?
Well, I want a leader. It's a leadership job, and here's what I know. I mean, we put Kurt Lager in there. It's not a tryout. He's been in that job for 18 months. And we've had a chance to see him, and I see how he interacts as well, because one of the things that we do, we talk a lot about cross-sector collaboration, expect the collaboration on our team. But you want somebody who has the respect of the men and women who they're going to lead, right? Somebody who can command that respect. I look for three things when I'm basically hiring. I look for passion, I look for authenticity, I look for capability. And the capability part is, Kirk is very, very capable, and he's passionate, and he's real. And he's proven to be a very effective leader with the guys. And I know the other candidates come up, and the commission took a hiatus, if you will, till I think the 17th of December to evaluate both. I think they've given everybody a really fair chance at the job. But I endorse Kurt because we've worked with him for 18 months, and we were at a time when we put him in there in a moment of transition. It wasn't that smooth a transition, and he stepped in and calmed the waters really well. And not to make a bad pun, but he did. He's done a really good job.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back with more with the mayor right after this.
From the moment you wake up.
Hawaii News Now brings you the stories that impact your day.
With more on the breaking news, we go live to Casey Lund.
Ready with the push alert? I'm going live. We have an update to the breaking news we brought you this morning on Sunrise.
Okay, guys, as soon as this wraps, toss to Mahia.
And we've been covering this story all day.
Now we go live to Mahia for a new development.
Stand by for breaking news. They just captured the suspect.
That's confirmed?
Yes, sources just confirmed it.
The news you need the moment it breaks.
Here on Hawaii News Now.
First alert traffic is like always having a helpful passenger right next to you.
There's a crash up ahead in the left lane.
When we see a backup, we'll tell you live on TV.
That doesn't look too good.
And send an alert to your phone.
I'll type, you drive.
First alert traffic on TV, streaming, and on the Hawaii News Now app.
Keeping you and your ohana safe.
Spotlight Now with Yunji Denise and Ryan Kalei-Suchi. Connecting you with newsmakers from throughout our islands. Going in depth with Hawaii's leaders. And taking your questions live. Spotlight Now, where Hawaii comes to talk.
Welcome back. We're continuing our conversation with Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi, and we again want to encourage all of you who are watching to continue to submit your questions. You can email us at spotlightnow@hawaiinewsnow.com or by entering your questions and comments on Facebook.
And we have a question coming in from Courtney for the mayor. Out of the total city operating budget, does the city depend on the federal government for any money? If so, are you worried about the chance of losing any federal monies, and could the city and county make up the shortfall? We know at the state level, the governor's talking about spending hundreds of millions of dollars from the rainy day fund. Obviously, the state much more reliant on the federal government than the city, but surely the city gets federal money as well.
Yeah, we have federal monies both in transit and in housing. I think all in it's nearly $400 million. So far, so good. I think we lost some money in housing, but we had contingencies there. So far, so good. I would tell you I had a meeting with the regional administrator on the HUD, and he came down, and former Navy SEAL, 24 years, actually was a really good guy. And we're all really impressed with him, and we're doing okay so far. He actually said he liked the way we were governing, so we're holding our own,
let's talk about some of the specific communities. One community that you have advocated for from the very first time you began this campaign was the Chinatown area. And we've heard, you've come on this program before. You've talked about a possible development or takeover of the Wolfat building. What can you tell us about any of the developments?
Wolfat's kind of there right now. I was hoping we had some conversations. I thought somebody was ready to buy it. We're going to do some different things. We'll see. It's such an iconic building, and I still think it's a focal point. But there's no question now as we come in town, the rail station's going to be starting to get built and all of that. We've done a really good job, I think, of cleaning up the streets. We've done a lot. Look, we have some homeless issues on there, but not a lot, and it's manageable. Working well with the prosecutor's office. We continue to make arrests. We don't make a lot of noise about that. We've made more aggressive arrests in Waikiki. We put 20 bad felons away in just the last couple of weeks. People don't know. Zero tolerance on the drug dealing. We're doing things aggressively but humanely. I was at Evil A Center just yesterday. I wish I could take you through there. The 100 beds we have set up, being run by AHS and Mental Health Kakua. We've just done a lot of things, and we're gonna now. And we've begun just last week picking up MH3. So anybody's, these are the people who. We would extend ourselves to CORE. CORE would go out there, establish a relationship, but they would refuse help. Now, if they look like they're in danger to themselves or they're really sick, we can take them on a voluntary basis. We're working in a collaboration with the state at the Behavioral Health Crisis Center, so we could do an assessment on them. A lot of these people we're taking in, we see that they're sick. There's a lot of cancer, diabetes, and people in bad ways, liver failure, stuff like that. We're trying to just, do it. Like I said, aggressively and humanely. We've got the 37 cameras down there, which is help. We're going to be putting in more. That's going to be tied to the rail when it actually comes in. We'll be at over 60 cameras there. We've increased our police presence. Major Roberts, who's down there, is from there. We're doing a lot of stuff, and I think we're moving towards. We're not going to be able to set up a bid because the city owns property, but we think we're going to set up a nonprofit that's going to help us. With some of the things we want to get done and just help cleaning it up more. It's a historic district. Look, as we get ready for an incredible, unprecedented development in Evil A, and all the things that, Christine Camp is doing with Avalon and her bet on downtown, and knowing where Chinatown is and what that represents, we're just doing everything we can to prep it for the future, trying to, make sure that we keep all of our restaurants, keep them engaged, occupied there, having good experiences. We want more of them. We approved outdoor dining. We're taking care of the place. Are we there yet? No. I mean, I'm really frustrated with the Cultural Plaza. I've tried now through 3 different consul generals to have a conversation in Taiwan. I have people ready to step up to the plate and bring a development concept. They can keep the land, we'll lease it back, whatever. I like to level that whole 4 acres and start over again. I have some frustration there. That's a big play. Still got 3 years left. Maybe we'll have some influence. I actually wrote to the president directly of the country. I try to be as aggressive. So I'll be on the next plane. Listen to what we have. I actually said to them in a very nice way, you don't have the right to be a slumlord in our city. This is owned by the Taiwan government, and I've got issues there because it's private property with respect to. But the fact that they have to chain it up at night, the merchants, what few merchants are left there, don't like that, and it's precluded our ability, quite honestly, to do the kind of work we'd like to do on College Walk. If you look at College Walk, that 50-foot wide sidewalk next to the new Wano Stream, you couldn't build something like that today. You really couldn't. It's incredible and it's iconic, and so much could be done with it. But that thing remains its own albatross, if you will. But no, there's a lot there. And I think I know this. By the time we leave in 3 years, from where we started to even where we are today, but where we will be, based on the stuff that we have in the works, pretty good. I mean, if you go down there, you don't see people on the sidewalk. We power washing the street twice a week, and the sidewalks look clean. People tell me all the time they're starting to feel safer. Again, like I said about the rail, you have to overcome a lot of cynicism or bad experiences, but people have in their memories, and they think it's still that way. And we're just trying to educate them that, things have changed. It's gotten better. And I had so many people say to me, I had dinner in Chinatown. I was so surprised. I felt so safe, So we're doing the best we can.
You know, when we spoke to Connie Mitchell, she was on recently, she said that one of the pervasive problems that she sees are folks coming from the continent here. She said that they surveyed their men's shelter, and it was about 40% were people who had been in Hawaii for less than a year. What do you think we can do about that? I mean,
well, you know, she's flying them back, and so is the bid. We're flying them. We can't fly them all back because you have to make a connection and whatever. I think last year we flew probably, if Connie was here, and the bid would tell you probably in the aggregate about 300, but Laura Thielen from Partners in Care reported recently they had 590 people because they have all their data, 590 people from the mainland. I actually wrote Karen Bass a letter, the mayor of Los Angeles, saying knock it off. In fact, if you think you're going to dump your city into this place as you get ready for the Olympics, we'll be sending them back as fast as they come. I'm serious. It's this is not. We're trying to. We opened 4 family shelters in the last 18 months, and we have them all full. Right. We're trying to take care of our local people and people in those situations as much as we can. But you know, this influx of people coming in, and you know, they usually go to Waikiki because they get told all these stories. We don't let them sleep on the beach. All this stuff. It's just our own little private war, you know. And I'm glad you brought it up because sometimes people don't recognize that, you know, that we have this. In fact, I think I said in the State of the City, 500 to 1,000 every year, and Laura came up with the 590 recently. But it's been like that for the last several years, you know. And you can't fly them all back, so we're dealing with it. What I don't like is when the bad guys come over, you know, and these people are just going to be a danger to themselves and danger to other people. Zero tolerance on that.
As we round out the year, unfortunately, it will mark the 1-year anniversary of the incident last year on New Year's Eve. You know, we spoke to you shortly after, and you mentioned how it was one of the hardest things that you've ever had to witness and just navigate through, and just the tragedy that transpired there in Aliamanu. Your thoughts as we head into this, holiday season and New Year's Eve with the changes that have been made. How do you think, and how do you hope residents will respond this New Year's Eve?
Well, you know, Ryan, you just used the right word, tragic, because it was tragic. You know, people got hurt, killed in that situation that should not have, you know, and that's really tragic. It's not like somebody, you know, lit a firecracker, blew off their hand or something like that to themselves doing something, and it was really tragic. We hope to God anything like Aliamanu doesn't happen again. Look, we're getting set now for really over the next several weeks to do an all-out press, encouraging people, begging them, cajoling them. But I don't want to be naive either. But this has gone beyond something that's cultural. I've lived here for 60 years. I know the cultural things, and this is really dangerous. These are explosives, illegally possessed. So I think you're going to hear Mike Lambert from the sheriff's talk about they've confiscated a lot on the docks. They have. The tonnage this year far away exceeds last year, but they still know that there's incoming. Last week when Campbell won the state championship, you know, there was a lot of fireworks going on out there, you know, and I'm hopeful that maybe, I pray to God people aren't stirring it and we don't have this big bomb, that maybe we don't have that, but I'm really worried about the wildfires. It's so dry. I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, we've been on the west side a lot lately. Every time I go out there, it's so dry. And so we're on full alert. Like I said, we're going to be doing everything we can to ask people. There's going to be a buyback too. And think about this. I remember the last time the police department bought back and paid for contraband, if you will, as opposed to what they would typically seize it. So we're going to extend every effort to make it easy for people to forfeit, get their money back, and just hope to God that they'll listen. I don't want to be a cynic. I just know that no matter what you do, sometimes people think they have a right to do this stuff, and we're all apprehensive. I tell you, I don't know how else to say it, and we're going to be really aggressive police-wise. And I would tell you, we need the enforcement, and we're collaborating with both I was just on a call this morning with Chief Vanek and Chief Lambert. This will be unprecedented as far as our enforcement, and there's a lot of other techniques I'm not going to talk about right now, but it's not going to be catch me if you can as it has been. I think we're going to be a lot more specific about it. And while I don't want to threaten people that they're going to go to jail, there's a lot at stake here.
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about is really changing culture. And I think that in the same way that you're saying with the rail, with the ridership, right, that you need to change behavior and it takes time, this is one of those where, you know, you need to change behavior, and people have been celebrating in this way for many, many years. And so they just think that this is the way we do it.
Yeah, but it's become more, I mean, the aerial fireworks isn't like in the old days in the carport, you know, with the the red firecrackers, you tie it to the ceiling, it goes all the way down to the ground, and everybody goes, oh, Happy New Year. I remember those days drinking Primo and whatever else back in, it's not like that anymore. It's the aerial stuff and what happens when you put that up in the air and how inflammatory it is in surrounding areas, or for that matter, even damaging to solar panels on people's roofs or setting somebody else's house on fire, much less a wildfire. I mean, there's just a lot to this. I don't ever remember the aerials being like they've been over the last several years. They've just gotten progressively more rampant than ever, and it's dangerous. But beyond the explosions, and I'm not trivializing that at all, it's just dangerous on so many different levels.
Well, something else, unfortunately, that we have also seen ramp up is the number of fatalities on our roadways related to pedestrians, e-bikes. We see car accidents, just a skyrocketing number this past year. Your thoughts about how this can change as well? We've talking to state officials and DOT officials about just the overall behavioral changes that need to be made, but what can the city do, or can the city do anything to help improve the situation now?
Other than talk about the fact that I think we're at 77 fatalities today. I mean, think about that. I mean, and we still got a ways to go here before the actual end of the year, but I hate to predict anybody else dying, but that's far too many. I think that's his all-time record, right? It is about personal. Every time I say about this, people get crazy. There's a lot of personal responsibility here. Sure, we're going to try to patrol. We're using we're doing whatever we can. It's people's behavior behind the wheel of a car. I mean, the responsibility. You got, don't drink high. Don't drink drunk. Don't be doing text messages. I would tell you, I sometimes wish I had lights on my car. I can't say I'm driving and I see people texting while they're driving, and you want to go like, what are you kidding me? So it's just personal behaviors, and I don't know what you can have to say to people. Look, accidents happen, but when you have this kind of stuff that's going on and the amount of fatalities, people have to understand it's very dangerous, and you got to be really responsible and totally aware anytime you're in command of a car.
Sticking with the roads, there's a question from Anthony in Mo'iliili who says, now that Beaky Bike Share is nearly 10 years old, what's your vision for bike share and scooters, aka bike transit, to take it to the next level for the next generation? We have a city that's pretty flat and pretty good weather.
Yeah.
We should probably have more bikes on the road.
Well, we're trying to do that. I mean, we've been very supportive on not only with Beaky Bikes, but building, this complete streets, which was started by the past administration. We've not curtailed that in any way. We've gone ahead. We've made some modifications because, candidly, we didn't like some of the plans. We thought it was a bit of a problem for us, but we continue to do that. Look, I think, as I said earlier, we talk about modernizing the city, and we talk about technology in one way of interpreting it, but this is also another way in lifestyle, and especially now as we start to, as I said about the development along the transit-oriented development and how that's going to change, and you start having people, communities, coming up that are within 10 minutes of a rail, or for that matter, or in places where they would like to have their bikes and stuff. I mean, you should have Roger Morton on talk about the plans. It's actually set up for a lot more bikes and scooters and electric bikes in those, provided they drive in those lanes on a going forward basis. Because, I mean, candidly, we've had too many cars on our road to begin with for far too long. And we already have a very aggressive and extensive bus system. It's just kind of amazing how people move around on our island. But if we can make it so that it's, again, part of an affordability and people can do that, or just for that matter, just recreationally and whatever, we're trying to do that.
I might have another street to add to your list. We'll talk after the show from the prior administration that we may want to improve around where I live.
Okay.
But we'll talk later about that.
Okay.
As we end the year and end our time with you, what is one of the things that you are proudest of or stands out the most from just this past year?
I'm proud of the team. I'm proud of our team. I get in that cabinet meeting every 2 weeks with them, and I see the capability in that room. I see the commitment, the conviction, the know-how. That's where it all lies. I said earlier at the outset of today's show, I'm going to shift from planning to execution, the things we're doing, things I can see in the pipeline, the things I know will start to manifest, and the success that we will have. Believe me, I'm going to shout loud, and when we get to DPP where I think it's going to be, I may get the Royal Hawaiian Band to throw a parade, okay? God bless Clark and those guys. I was in 5 parades with them last week. But no, it's that. we've really kind of come together in that regard. And this is true of our first responders, whether it's HPD, HFD, Ocean Safety, EMS, whatever, but just as much in any of the departments you want to talk about. There's a real commitment to improving the quality of life and how the city operates. And it's genuine, it's real, and everybody's working at it. I'm because in that comes the next 3 years, and that's what I'm proud of. I feel like we got the right team in place now.
I'm curious because you did mention that you were in 5 parades last week, and I'm sure that holiday season is the time that you're interacting with the public. I was at the City Lights opening, and that was so beautiful to see. And then just down the street, you have Thomas Square. So tell us a little bit for folks who have not been down there. This is a free activation. It's the Show Aloha that we saw at Aloha Stadium. Obviously, Aloha Stadium's not available, so they moved it. And it's nice to see Thomas Square activated in this new way.
Well, thank you. And first of all, I can't say enough about Mike Gangloff, who donated all of this. He had a commercial enterprise in Show Aloha out at Aloha Stadium. He has spent millions of dollars on lights and whatever. He donated all of the lights, all of the manpower to install those lights, including the generators to run those lights. And on top of that, we've worked it out through Mike's negotiations and his relationships with the various vendors in there. Anybody who's buying anything in there, 100% of proceeds are going to go to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. This is a big act of love. And I know people write checks in other ways and are philanthropists and whatever, but this is costing Mike a lot of money. He wanted to do it for the city. He wanted, and as it was, we lost some of our campus at Honolulu Holly because of the rebuild of the garage, which I'm really excited to finally do. And we had to move Seagull Schools because they're going to demolish that into Mission Memorial, which the schools that's a great story. In fact, I just saw Megan McCorson this morning, the principal of that. I mean, they're like, the schools came out really good. We were concerned about that because that's the state's largest preschool. We had almost 250 kids there. 70% of those kids are the children of employees. But anyway, we worked it all out. For Mike to come along and do this, and to add to that, was extraordinary. I mean, this is, look, I meet a lot of people in this job and a lot of wonderful people and generous people. This is coming from an individual. This is really above and beyond. So he deserves a lot of credit. But I think it's also really cool for the people. And I want to encourage people to come down there and go through it and just, enjoy the lights. And, it's that time of the year. And so
and Ryan,
free movies as well,
yeah,
right?
Free
There's
movies.
I mean,
there's bounce houses,
there's
movies,
bounce houses.
There's trains.
I know.
I know. I went down there with my kids. It was so much fun, and it's all free, which is really nice because we know that families, it's an expensive time of year too.
That's right, and that's what we wanted. That's what I said. This is like, Jimmy Stewart should be in this kind of movie or something. I mean, it's a wonderful life. It's Christmas time. You see the best in people, and Mike deserves a lot of credit. He and his wife, because she goes along with it too. But he's really a really exceptional guy.
Okay, well, we are almost out of time, but before we let you go, we'd love to know your resolutions for 2026.
I haven't even thought about those yet. I'll tell you, I sort of said it today in a way. I have more resolve in me now, obviously, with the knowledge that I have now 5 years being mayor, on the things that we're going to get done. And so it is about that. I want us to achieve the things I know we're capable of achieving and what it will mean for the city. I want to be really quick at the end. I took a procurement meeting this morning. There are 3 things that we're addressing that everybody talks about that are incredible for the city. One of them has to do with technology we talked about and the investments we're making. The other has to do with our HR department. We've come a long way on what we're doing and how we hire and how aggressive we are in the recruiting. And the other is a procurement, which was the bane of our, we're going to fix that. These are up there. These are way up there when we talk about rail and homelessness and others. These topics that don't get the same kind of notoriety, but for us, the systemic operations of the city are absolutely critical. And I know we're going to address all of them and be highly successful with it. And for that, I'm really grateful. I find this job to be an incredible challenge, but it's also very gratifying.
Okay, that's a professional resolution. Let's hear the personal one.
I want to keep my health. I'm going to be 80 this year. 80 years old. I never thought, I'm going to be 80. So when one is approaching their 80th birthday, you got to take, so I feel really good. I want to keep it that way, and love my wife more because she's watching. Love my wife more.
Oh,
yes.
Well, we love that. That's very sweet. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, for being here. We'll see you in the new year.
Thank you, Yanchi. Thank you, Ryan.
We'll be right back with Hawaii Pacific Health right after this.
Well, welcome back to Spotlight. Now it's time for our community spotlight, which is brought to us by Hawaii Pacific Health, where we talk about some of the good things that are happening in our communities. And today we're focusing on one community specifically out in the middle of the island.
Yeah, that's right. Mililani got a big care center thanks to Hawaii Pacific Health, and the person who is helping to run primary care there and also helped to design it is Dr. Sandra Noon, and she's joining us now, Chief of Primary Care at Hawaii Pacific Health Medical Group. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
So very exciting to have the Mililani Clinic now open, biggest neighborhood clinic in the state. I think we tend to focus on the big hospitals when we think about, some of the renovations, and we know exciting things are happening at Straub and some of the other areas. But tell us about the role of the neighborhood clinic and why that's so important.
Yeah, care has been typically, historically centered around the hospitals. And now we think about preventive medicine. How do we keep people out of the hospital, out of the emergency room? It's about preventive care. It's about bringing care to the community. I think people are much more likely to access that care if it's in their neighborhood, if it's close to where they work or live.
One of the cool things that I saw about this is that you helped to plan this. I mean,
Yes.
not many physicians or people in your field get to have a say in how a facility is built like this. Talk to us a little bit about what went into that and some of the things that you think make it a little more unique.
Well, it was actually a lot of fun. And I would say one of the things that besides the services that we're bringing that we didn't have before, like urgent care. So that was amazing to be able to bring urgent care to that community. But even more so, it was about being able to create a space that didn't feel like you're walking into a clinic or to healthcare space. I mean, I'm a physician, been a physician for 30 years, and my blood pressure still goes up when I go to see my doctor. So it's nice to create a space that helps people feel relaxed when they walk in. So it doesn't feel like, and I've served as a greeter at the front of this clinic, it doesn't feel like a clinic. I've said, hey, what does this feel like? Does this feel like a clinic or something else? And they say, oh, it's something else. Like what? Like a hotel, reception lobby, or like a spa. And I said, that's what I'm going for, because I want people to feel relaxed and feel like they're coming home when they come into this space.
Yeah, and you've talked about surrounding the patient with care as opposed to making them navigate the system. What does that look like on the ground in the clinic?
Well, we've always had primary care since we opened up in the 80s. It's always been primary care, and then we've started to add specialties as we've realized what we've needed. And so we have OB-GYN, so those who deliver your babies, who are also residential specialists, and we have full spectrum primary care, so adult, internal medicine, family medicine, and then pediatrics. But we are also bringing in pediatric sports medicine, adult sports medicine, rheumatology, so that was bone and joint specialists, cardiologists, and gastroenterologists. Again, trying to get that care to the community so they don't have to travel into town.
And what's interesting is that you wouldn't necessarily think about those kind of specialty services in a neighborhood clinic.
Right.
Why was that important to you?
I think sometimes people would choose not to get that care if they had to find a ride, if they had to pay for the gas, if they had to take time away from work or from, taking care of their families, if they had to seek out that care. Sometimes it does come down to a choice. We wanted to make it easier for folks to access the care that they need so they can stay healthy.
Well, one of the key things that, I did a story once about just how different some communities are from each other, albeit just a few miles apart. You see a difference in, different health conditions and different things in which people navigate their daily life and how that may ultimately impact their overall health.
Right.
Being in Central Oahu, what are some of the things that you're seeing specifically with this community? Is there any sort of health related incidents or things that maybe are a bit more focused for this community?
One of the reasons that we're bringing urgent care there is because we realize there's a need for that immediate access, and we expanded the clinic so that we had more access to primary care. But I would say we are seeing our population age, so we're seeing more elderly folks that need that support, and their families that need support, learn how to caregive, learn how to access the medical equipment that their family members need. Maybe even create a support group for a kapuna so that they can connect with each other. And part of my method to my madness is to also have them be a part of our volunteer force. And so it's great to sort of connect with the community outside of what we've typically done in healthcare.
Yeah, and I think, what to your point at the beginning, just about how we tend to focus on the hospital systems,
yes,
but that care really in the community is so important. What do you hope that this leads to over time in terms of the health and well-being of the people who live in the neighborhood?
Yeah, I think the health of our community is all of our responsibilities, not just those in the healthcare field. For us, I think some of the work that we need to do going forward is to bridge that divide. Patients, just because we have our doors open doesn't mean people are going to walk through them. We need to provide care in a way that makes sense to what life looks like for all of our patients today, and to bridge the divide for people that can't get in. If you have transportation issues, whether it's a mobility problem or you don't have access to a car, or even just money to be able to afford your medications, what can we do on the healthcare side to help bridge that gap?
This is the holiday season. What advice, as a physician, are you giving to your patients, or would you have to our viewers out there, as we hear people in our newsroom sneezing? What are some of the advice that you give to help people stay sane and safe and healthy during this holiday season?
Yeah, I would say it's all about lifestyle. So how do we eat healthily? And of course, I tell my patients, look, you have a little bit of a pass when we're in the holiday season, but please try to think about healthier choices even within that pastime. Go for a walk after you have those heavy meals. Connect with each other, so be there for each other. We already do that so naturally in Hawaii, and if we can do that more for our communities, to bring some of that cheer to people in our community who don't otherwise have access to it.
Yeah, that's so important. And for folks who might be curious about the clinic, they might live in the area, what would you say to them?
Yeah, come on down. We would love to see you. We have so many services, and if for no other reason than just to come look at this beautiful clinic that we've designed and that we've put up in the community.
Yeah, and going back to what Ryan was saying about, you help to design and plan it, on a personal level, what is it like for you as you walk in those doors every day?
Oh, man. We have access points within the clinic. I always go in through the front door so that I can say hi to all my family. I call them my family because I've been working with them for so many years. But I'm just so proud to have brought this space to our Mililani community. I've been in practice there for 10 years. And, people, they matter to you. They become a part of your family. And so I'm just very happy to have done this.
Okay, exciting. It started in August and now full steam ahead.
Full steam ahead and always growing. What can we do next?
Dr. Noon, thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for being here. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Funding cuts affect us all in ways that we don't expect. It all trickles down.
There is an unprecedented number of families who have been seeking our services for the first time.
Kapuna really rely on our meals to sustain them.
Everyone deserves the opportunity to select the next meal that they're going to have. These are our basic rights.
And so we scramble, we do whatever we can, but that's what keeps us going, is wanting to help.
From the moment you wake up,
Hawaii News Now brings you the stories that impact your day.
With more on the breaking news, we go live to Casey Lund.
Ready with the push alert? I'm going live. We have an update to the breaking news we brought you this morning on Sunrise.
Okay, guys, as soon as this wraps, toss to Mahia.
And we've been covering this story all day.
Now we go live to Mahia for a new development.
Stand by for breaking news. They just captured the suspect.
That's confirmed?
Yes, sources just confirmed it.
The news you need the moment it breaks.
Here on Hawaii News Now.
Spotlight Now with Yunji Denise and Ryan Kalei Suchi. Connecting you with newsmakers from throughout our islands. Going in depth with Hawaii's leaders. And taking your questions live. Spotlight Now, where Hawaii comes to talk.
Well, great to catch up with Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi in our show today, as he talked about some of the successes that he's had, not only in this year, but really he touted a lot of the achievements that the mayor and his administration have been able to tackle during his time in office. You can still hear the mayor very adamant and very passionate about improving some of these areas like DPP, which he says is getting better. It's almost there. Still work to be done, but he's happy, at least from his perspective, about the progress that's been made.
Yeah, he's going to have a paina with the Royal Hawaiian Band when he's all pout with that. Also heard him talk about rail and saying, very emphatically, the rail will go to Ala Moana Center. They settled a $41 million settlement to get some of that extension to make it even possible. Tudor Perini, he says, is working on those plans, and ultimately his hope is that it gets to UH. It's very interesting because you see the evolution of his position, right? When he was running for mayor, he talked about ending it at Middle Street. Now he says he's turned that project around. He's all in on transit-oriented development, and he wants to see the rail at least go to Ala Moana Center.
And he seems somewhat confident about the support that the administration and the city will get from the project from the federal partners. He says that they have a great relationship, and we know that is something that will have to be looked at as we continue to see what developments come out of Washington, D.C., and how those decisions and cuts that are happening on the federal level could impact projects like the rail here. But the mayor's saying pretty confidently that he is in communication with the FTA and does have that support. And again, looking forward to that. We also heard from him about just the overall thoughts of him being into this office, saying that he loves his job, he's and happy with his staff, and looking forward to another hopefully safe New Year's as he continues to urge the public to really remain vigilant and also practice safety, especially around New Year's Eve.
Yeah, and then we heard from our partners over at Hawaii Pacific Health about the Mililani Clinic, which opened in August. Sounds like a wonderful facility there, serving the central Oahu community. Just a lot of good things happening, and so it's wonderful to highlight that progress there. Next week, we'll talk to Governor Josh Green.
Yeah, that's right. The governor going to have to submit his budget soon as the legislature prepares to open session next month. A lot to always catch up with Governor Josh Green. We hope you'll join us right back here next week, Tuesday, for another episode of Spotlight Now.